When I was born, things went really, really well for the first 6 weeks. And then my mother got sick. And I was the firstborn. I was really wanted. It was legendary the way they made me. They told everybody how much fun it was. But they didn't count on my mother getting sick. She had 106 fever and an infection, and my father had to feed me. And they didn't have a lot of milk in the house, but he was heating up the milk, and he was doing what most dads did in the 50s. He was chain-smoking Pall Mall cigarettes while he was heating up the milk. And I was crying because I was hungry. You know, babies have hunger storms. I was having a hunger storm, and my mother couldn't breastfeed me because she was sick. And he spilled ashes in my milk and had to drive into town to buy more milk while I laid on my mother's chest. And a part of me died. I thought it died anyway, but it didn't actually die. It just went to sleep. And by the time I was 5 years old, I was complaining to my mother that I didn't know why I was born, and I didn't know why I was here, and that I didn't want to be here, and I didn't want to go to school, and I really didn't want to live, and kind of felt like I was dragging my feet through life until I found Ripple wine. And that was my milk substitute. And so I drank my way through my 20s, and then I quit drinking. And when I quit drinking, I began to find what I call the breadcrumbs to Grandma's house, which were these clues back to an experience that I had no words for. And like when I was in graduate school, there was this movie that we had to watch of mothers breastfeeding their kids and bottle feeding their babies. And I felt nauseous and sick, and I went in the bathroom and sat on the floor and wrote a poem called Swallowing Mother. So I knew that I was seeking this thing, this voice within me. I'd been writing my whole life, and I couldn't find my story. And then in 1991, I was in a hurricane on Kauai, and I had some really nasty post-traumatic stress. So I went for hypnotherapy, and in the hypnotherapy, it wasn't about the hurricane, it was about my father yelling at me. And I called my mom and I said, "Did Daddy ever yell at me when I was a baby?" And she said, "How could you remember that?" And she told me the story about the ashes in the milk. And she said, "You went over to the bottle just fine without a fuss." And I went over to the bottle without a fuss because I left part of me behind. Fast forward to about 10 years ago, and I'm in Kyoto, Japan, and I'm walking around this garden, and there's these little Buddhas wearing bibs and red hats. And I say to the docent, "What's with Buddha wearing the bib?" And she goes, "No, that's not Buddha, that's Jizo. He's the Buddhist protector of women and children." And I literally felt this infant inside me climb into this statue's arms and rest. And it said, "You're safe now." And I got myself a little Jesus statue, and I put it on a box, and I started meditating with it. And I started painting them and listening to this voice inside me that said, "I'm here. I'm here, and I'm safe, and you can hold me safely. And this will begin to make sense." And it has. And the courage that it takes to try and find words to something that you don't know about, but that is eating you, that tells you you're not enough or that you're not safe. This primal anxiety that I really think everybody has at some level because we're born helpless. We're the only mammals that can't get up and get milk. Baby horses, baby cows, baby everything get up and get milk, and we have to wait. We have to wait for them to read our cues and come and feed us. And the courage it takes to just get up and be a human being every day is what I thought about when I saw the word gumption, and I just said, fuck it, I'm going to come up here and tell this story. I've been trying to write this book for 10 years, and it's impossible. So I thought maybe it's a TED Talk, but I thought, no, I'm not going to do this on a TED stage. And then I found the Moth. And I thought, well, maybe you guys would maybe be empathic enough and safe enough and cheering enough, and you seem so kind. So thank you all for listening.